Louis Hart for the Ring magazine. It's my pleasure today to be joined on a fine Tuesday morning with Mr. Johnny Nelson, MBE. Johnny, it's good to be speaking to you. It's been a while for some reason. We haven't caught up in ages, but yeah, how's things? How's everything been?
Oh, good. Oh, good. It's summer's hit now, and it's going to be the season's now just taking everything's taking making taking its places. Everything's coming together. Fights wise, everyone's getting excited. Everyone's getting what they want, and so we've got a few things to look forward to. So it's pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we do get into the serious stuff in boxing, yeah, how's the grass? How's the lawn? Everything good?
Yeah. I've introduced some chickens to the grass, so we're good. So just this morning, I was a little bit late. I went out to get some more eggs. I went, yes, you're right. So I'm getting inundated with eggs left, right, and centre. So it's all good.
Good to hear, mate. Good to hear. But yeah, I guess first things first, obviously, on the Ring magazine here, we've got to firstly touch on obviously a big show July 12th, Flushing Meadows,
Yeah,
Louis Armstrong Stadium. I guess a co-double headliner, Shakur Stevenson and William Zepeda and Hamzah Sheeraz, Edgar
good
Berlanga.
fight.
First things first, yeah, I guess seeing boxing in an iconic tennis venue, I'm sure as a fan, it must be something that you must be excited to see.
You know what I actually like? I actually like the fact that now fights are taking places in the least expected places, in iconic places where you think, oh, you know what? Why not? It's a great idea. Remember back in the day when they used to have boxing in Camden? They don't do that now. So it's
Yeah.
picking places around the world that are iconic venues. You think good shout, and it's just creating. Because you can get some. We've had some amazing fights over the centuries of boxing in the oddest of places. So who'd have thought the Rumble in the Jungle would have been so iconic? So looking at different places, different venues, it's just pulling that crowd and it's just giving a bit more spice to the boxing.
Is there any venue that you'd have loved to have boxed at that you never did?
I don't know. I'd love to have boxed outside. I'd love to have boxed like on the show Rumble in the Jungle, outside in
Yeah.
the heat. I would have loved to do something like that. But and they say boxing outside and boxing inside can be very different. I have boxed outside, but not in such a junglist environment. So every venue's a great place to box, as long as the fans are there as well, as long as the fans are getting what they want as well.
Well, I guess we'll firstly touch on obviously the main event, Shakur Stevenson, William Zepeda. Quite an interesting fight that's been brewing for some time over in the US. From your point of view, what do you make of the fight between Shakur and Zepeda?
You've got two southpaws facing each other. I think the styles will gel perfectly. I think Stevenson's going to have to work for the win. He's going to have to use his skills. He's going to have to use his every little bit of experience he's got to make sure he gets this job done. Because if he tries to fight Zepeda, Zepeda's fire with fire. Zepeda's a good offensive fighter. Southpaw coming forward, he's strong, he's persistent, he's consistent, varies a shot from the body to head. And so if Stevenson thinks, ego gets involved, thinking, I'm going to break you down. I'm looking at your record. You've won every one of your fights. You've knocked 27 of them out. I think he's got an 82% knockout success ratio. Will Stevenson go for glory and just to say, you know what, look, I've not just beaten him, look how I've beaten him. Or will he go for smarts? Depending on how hard or easy the fight is as he's going through. This is not an easy fight. This is a dangerous fight, but this job is down to him to make it harder than what it should be. If he boxes him, box smart, uses his footwork, uses angles, then the fight should play his way. But he's got to be fit on it. And number one, he's got to make sure ego stays out of it. He's got to use his boxing brain. And remember, you've got southpaw against southpaw, and it's not very often you see that, especially at certain levels of boxing, because southpaws are a nightmare for other southpaws, like they are for most orthodox fighters. So see who adapts well in there with another southpaw, and the southpaw style will make a massive difference. I know Zepeda, what he likes to do, he likes to get the front foot out on the outside if his opponent to close him down to trap him. But then, how will he adapt that style when he's up against another southpaw? Because Stevenson's got the movement, he's got the variation, he's got a lot in his artillery.
It's interesting you say there about Southpaw versus Southpaw. Like that's always an interesting dynamic. I remember Pacquiao, someone even like Pacquiao saying that he used to, he hated Southpaws. Does that like how much of a different element do you think that takes into it? Because like
Oh,
it's so that's something that they're not used to.
it's a massive element, and you'd ask any orthodox fighter, most orthodox fighters, certain fighters. find it actually easier fighting southpaws than you do orthodox fighters. But most orthodox fighters think southpaws are an absolute nightmare because if you're in the gym constantly, day by day, and you're sparring them with orthodox fighters most of the time, everything you do naturally, instinctively, is against an orthodox fighter. But then when you get in with a southpaw fighter, that's where the problem starts. You've got to start trying to refigure, retweak what you're capable of doing. Footwork, looking at the backhand lead, looking how they're going to work it out. So for these two guys, the same problems they create for others, they are bringing to each other. Now you've got one front foot fighter, you've got one really good defensive fighter as well as an attacking fighter. So it's a case of, am I going to match you at what you're good at? Or am I going to make you try and match what I'm good at? Now, Stevenson should use his brain. He can box, he can fight, he can do the two. He's got beautiful variation. He's got a good energy level. But Zepeda, again, he's consistent, absolutely consistent coming down. And they'll try and trap him. They'll try and corner him. They'll try and walk him down. They'll try and break the body. To me, it's an intriguing fight. It's a case of how disciplined Stevenson can be.
And when you see His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh come and talk about sort of not wanting Tom and Jerry style fights anymore, when you look at Shakur's style as well, do you think that creates extra pressure on him to entertain as well? Because we know, look, previously the De Los Santos fight, the Haratunian fight, these haven't been entertaining fights from Shakur. So is there more pressure than ever now saying, look, we've got this platform?
Of course. Listen. If you're His Excellency and you see Conor Benn against Eubank, and you see these two fighters leave their heart and soul in the ring. And no matter where you are, who you are in the world, you're thinking, that's what I'm talking about. So now, if you guys are top draw, I want that kind of commitment from you. I want that kind of love from you because the fans would love it and appreciate it. And I love it and appreciate it. So in reality, he's every right to say, come on, let's bring this on because the fans wanted it as well. He's basically speaking for the fans, and step it up. I understand it's easier said than done. But there needs to be once you step in the ring, there needs to be an honesty about you to say, right, I'm going to give it all I've got. And if me being one step ahead and I'm that good, I make it look easy. I'm sorry. That's how good I am. But, some fighters want to play it safe and some because they look at bigger and better things ahead. But it's about giving the fans what they want, but also about getting the win and the fashion of the win.
I did want to move on to Hamzah Sheeraz against Edgar Berlanga. A real interesting fight. Both of them can punch. Both almost wounded animals in there, with both suffering. Well, I guess Sheeraz with the draw and Berlanga with a recent defeat to Canelo. So them styles makes for a real interesting fight. On 20.
Yeah. So I think the most significant loss on their careers. The Canelo one. Canelo's top draw. I think he beats 97% of the fighters, probably 96% of the fighters in the world right now. So there's no shame in that loss. Berlanga. So to me, this is a test of Sheeraz because I think Sheeraz potentially can be a really, really good fighter. And when he boxed, was it Augustus in his last fight? In his last fight, when he boxed
Carlos
Adames, sorry.
yeah.
Adames in his last fight. I was underwhelmed. I was surprised because I know he's better than that. And I think he overthought it, overcooked it because the kid can fight. And I just thought, you know what, you just it's like putting your hand in a cookie jar and jamming too many cookies out, not being able to get your hand. You should just let God do what he could do. He overcooked it. And again, I still think potentially he can be one of the top fighters out there, but you have to learn your mistakes and have your experiences to get wisdom. I do think he'll have a hell of a lot from that. This is a good fight. This is a good yardstick, good measurer. Because you look how Berlanga did it against Canelo. He lost on points to Canelo. He was put down, but it showed heart, it showed guts, and Canelo's a good fighter, an outstanding fighter. So this would tell us more about Sheeraz in regards to let's see what level you're at, where you can bring yourself to. So again, it's a good step up for Sheeraz to prove to himself and everybody else what he's capable of doing.
How do you think both fighters approach a fight when it comes to a case of no one really knows, where it's a long road back to the loser, as this fight shows?
Number one, I actually like this kind of competition. There's a lot on the line, and most people think it's over if you lose. No, you're not. But what I'm saying for both of these fighters, would it be who would it be most devastating to? So Malanga's been here with Canal. Hart got up there, got a shot, got beat up. Sheeraz hasn't had the chance to touch at that level yet. So it's for Shiraz to prove, look, I'm at that level and past it. You want to put me in the mix. So I think there's a lot more pressure on Shiraz's shoulders than Malanga's, in my opinion. Because because you can see, right, you've had your chance, you've had the opportunity, you weren't good enough, plain and simple, and you've proved that. So now let someone else have a go. Or is there more to come from Malanga? They can say, all right, I did this. I should have done X, Y, Z. I messed up. For Shiraz, it's for him to prove I am at that level. I'm just learning along the way.
A week later, we move on to another big fight. Oleksandr Usyk takes on Daniel Dubois at Wembley Stadium. Um, yeah, look, we're about just under a month, just over a month. No, sorry, just over a month away from the fight. Sorry, just getting my words right there. Yeah, I guess how do you look back on all the it's a big fight between Usyk Dubois rematch Wembley Stadium. Johnny, what are your thoughts on this mouth-watering clash?
Okay. So from the top, I think it's very ambitious to put this fight on at Wembley Stadium. Very
Mm.
ambitious. Because this isn't an AJ, this isn't a Fury, this isn't this isn't a massive rivalry where the fans and the casual audience can get involved. This isn't one of those. I think it's very ambitious to put it there. I don't think it would be one of those roadblock fights where you're struggling to get tickets because Usyk has he's won the hearts of the UK fight fans. They love him. Outside of that, that crossover appeal that you have for the casual fan, they don't know him. They don't really know him. For Daniel Dubois, Daniel Dubois. It's a great story. 26, 27 years old, coming through. You look at what he's done. Again, is he a fan of the Wembley Stadium? I don't think so. I think he can fill O2. And that's the kind of guy he is. I think maybe it's a bit of time before he gets to that point there to get that kind of notoriety. But he needs that big fight. He needs the big fight against somebody like an AJ, like a Fury. And then he's a great dance partner. So these two fighting each other, I think it's very ambitious to put it at Wembley. That aside, talking about the fight itself, you look at Oleksandr Usyk. Oleksandr Usyk has proven time and time again, if he's boxed you once, he actually finds it easier the second time. And the difference between this fight and their last fight is Daniel is now believe in himself, and the success has made him more confident, have more self-belief, have more faith in what he's capable of doing. I think he was like a learning driver the first time they boxed. Um, but the problem is with Usyk, if you fight Usyk once, he's very good at downloading the blueprint of who you are. I think his second fight with AJ, even though I believe AJ boxed better in the second fight, I think his second fight with AJ was easier than the first fight. I think with Tyson Fury, I think his second fight with Tyson Fury was easier than the first fight. So why is that? So once he knows who you are, knows what your strengths are, knows what your needs are, knows how fast you are, then he downloads right. I've got to do X, Y, Z, and he's just that kind of fighter. At the moment, I don't see the wheels falling off. I think he may be one of those fighters that will walk away before the wheels fall off. I do believe this fight is it's a fight that catches your attention, but I do believe that Usyk could possibly stop Daniel, and it won't be one shot. It'll be an accumulation of consistent, like subtle pressure on Daniel. But Daniel, again, we see how he grows, we see how he goes on, and I bet against Daniel against Asia, but then AJ didn't turn up. Daniel did,
Yeah.
and Daniel got the job done. So I don't think that's going to be the case here. You've got two fighters that are going to turn up, so it's going to be skill against skill. Daniel is naturally the stronger of the two, but I suppose a lot of people Usyk's been with have been bigger and stronger than him, but he's managed to negate his way around what advantages they have.
You say there, obviously, you mentioned the Fury rematch and the AJ rematch. When it comes to this rematch, this one, obviously, you must look at it in a different aspect because this isn't an immediate rematch like the other two have been. Dubois has gone away. He's had three credible wins against Miller, AJ, and Hergovic. So, when you play that into account, when you look at a Dubois a sort of a rejuvenated Dubois? Does that create for a different fight, as you say? Because
Potentially,
he's got better. Yeah.
potentially could, but knowledge is power. So Dubois knows what Usyk's about, and Usyk knows what Dubois is about. Usyk showed that he can think in most situations and change the direction of a fight mid-fight. He's proved that. He proved that when he got when he went down in the last fight, he knew how to milk the situation. He knew how to play the game, find himself a little time to re-establish himself, and still come back and beat Daniel up. So for Daniel, he now knows that you know what I've got to stick to the task in hand. Don't be brokenhearted by this guy's persistence, because he'll keep coming as long as he possibly can. He's an honest pro. So knowledge is power. So yes, they're both not getting an instant rematch. You think, well, look at what they did after that. Look at what Usyk also did after that. Look at what Daniel did. So Daniel's had a confidence builder, but so has Usyk. So Daniel knows what Usyk's about, but so does Usyk. So both fighters have benefited from the opportunity to box elsewhere and others. So again, I think Usyk stops Daniel inside the distance. But you know what? I'm trying to back the bit, but you're asking me a question. I'm going to say exactly how it is, how I think it is.
Yeah. And you mentioned there about the low blow as well. How much do you feel like that could play into Dubois' confidence in a sense? Because
Oh,
I spoke to Shane McGuigan, a former trainer of his, and something he said out to me. He said, you know, he won't for someone like Dubois, he won't think about how the fight ended, with sort of people saying he quit, etc. But that minute, that sort of that one punch will give him a different level of self-belief, and the people telling him that as well. So how much do you feel like when you hear some sort of things like that and the confidence in Dubois that plays a factor from the first fight as well? Knowing
it'll
like I feel
play
like I can hurt him. Yeah.
oh yeah. Now Daniel doesn't think he can hurt him. He knows he can hurt him.
Mm.
Daniel just knows that he wasn't smart enough and sharp enough and on it enough to actually take advantage of hurting him. But he also knows that Usyk is sharp enough, smart enough to make sure he can think quick enough for when he's hurt to try and negate and save himself and get himself back in condition. Usyk's recovery powers are great, instinctive, because you are hitting hurt. To come back within the next minute and turn it on your opponent and put it on him, it's like, wow. So, but for Daniel now knows he has the power. It's probably one of the strongest punches out there in the heavyweight division at the moment, one of them. And so now it's thinking and knowing are two different things. Now he knows, he'll think, right, I've got something else I didn't know I had going into this fight.
Wanted to move on. You mentioned about Anthony Joshua there. Yeah, obviously his future's up in the air. I know Eddie Hearn went on the Ariel and Ade show and spoke about 2026 potentially being the last year of AJ in the sport. I know you spoke previously to me immediately after the Dubois fight and sort of would have liked to AJ to retire. From your standpoint, where do you see sort of the future of AJ if sort of we're looking at the last year of him in the sport?
Well, it depends on how many times Orishi fights this year, because this year could be the last year for him in this
Mm,
sport. It could be this year. And again, listen, we talk about AJ, and you might be sick of it thinking, why are you always talking about my name?
yeah.
Because it's because of what he's done for British boxing. He's done
Mm,
amazing things and set a great standard. So let's start on the positive of what he's done for British boxing, for everybody involved. And then we'll talk facts. The facts is AJ is not the fighter he was. AJ, the cracks and the flaws in AJ are now very visible to many people that know our sport. And AJ, if he walks away now, you know what, he could come back in 10 years' time and do a George Foreman, because the confidence and self belief, even though it's up there, does not really match the ability
mm.
that he actually has. And we've seen that in previous fights, even though he's achieved amazing things. I think this guy can achieve so much more. But as I said, mentally, I don't think his confidence doesn't match his ability, and that's saying what he's achieved. But I think with AJ, this is about him. This is about his mental maturity, his mental desire. I do believe you could see this being the last year. God forbid he's in a fight against somebody he should turn over. He struggles with him in his next fight, and if that is the case, I think, nah, I'm out of this. I'm out of this. And he doesn't need it. We need him more than he needs us. And and that's the position he's got himself in our sport. So it's a case of one, who he fights. It's a case of when he fights, and a case of how he fights. Common sense and everything. If his ambitions are still to be a world champion, common sense or everything. Common sense will tell you get in line, try and get that fight against Dubois. Try and fix that right. Or do you believe Dubois? You know what? He's overtaken me. So if you're a heavyweight, a former champion, once you're a champion, you believe you're the best fighter in the world. If you lose that, then you use every excuse for why you lost. But then to still have that same drive and ambition, you've got to still believe you can be heavyweight champion of the world again. Now, there's two people that are in the way of Anthony Joshua really believing he can be the heavyweight champion of the world again. That's Oleksandr Usyk, it's Daniel Dubois. So if these two people are not on his menu to say, I want to get in the ring with those two again, that means his ambition's gone. So once your ambition's gone, it's the fundamentals, the fruit of what you need to stay a successful fighter. If when you're in a hard fight, a tough fight, you've got to dig in deep. Those fundamentals have to be there. So if he doesn't believe he can, regardless of what we think, if he doesn't believe he can beat Usyk, if he doesn't believe he can beat Dubois, the fundamentals have gone. So now it's a case of whoever puts it on him and gives him a tough fight, are probably the one that will break his heart with the straw that breaks the camel's back. And he said, you know what? I'm done. Because I don't believe it's about the money now. Because he's got more money than he and his ancestors will ever spend. So I don't think it's about the money now, because he's a very proud man. And it would have hurt his heart, especially the public seeing him getting turned over like that against Daniel Dubois. It absolutely devastated his heart. So he's now got to get his head around that. God forbid for happen again, you know. And there's a very good chance that could happen again. So he's got to have the fundamentals that make you still believe you can be champion. Because you've got fighters that don't ever think they'll be champions, so they can have that drive to fight. You've got fighters that think, well, you know, you're fighting for a reason. Your goal might be British, European, Commonwealth, you know, world champion, or to be a world champion that stays there for a while. If you haven't got those fundamentals to stay like that, you're a journeyman. You're a journeyman, just making the numbers up. Anthony Joshua, the last thing he wants to be is a journeyman or a gatekeeper. We see heavyweights that are out there now that are happy to be a gatekeeper, knowing I'm not going to get to the top. I can still earn a living. I'll happily be a gatekeeper. Most fighters are like that, but very few fighters, the champions that really believe they were better in the world, can't actually accept that for themselves.
So with that, I guess with that being said as well, do you think so? Would you say there's a point in look the Fury fight and then call it a day?
Yeah, I would. You know, and that's why Fury and AJ are the fight for those two to say, you know what, it's lucrative, and I can go out on a high. It depends on who believes in themselves, who really and truly believes in themselves the most. That's all it depends on, and that's it. Because any one of these two, probably more AJ than Fury, could lose at any given moment. Yeah. And if they do, the value of that will still be there, but it will drop massively. So of course, common sense tells you if you're an AJ, because these two guys, even though they're not world champions, they could fill out Wembley Stadium in a heartbeat. How has that ever been done? Two guys that are not world champions to do that. You know, well, we have seen it done with Ben and Eubank. Yeah. But again, they in the heavyweight division, this can be done, and they'll get a bigger crowd than Usyk and Dubois.
Both coming off losses as well. I think that could.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So it shows the value of these two fighters, but that's the business side of it. But then there's a human side of it, and it's a case of what AJ is willing to sacrifice. You know, that's something. Remember, when the cameras are off and everybody's gone out of the stadium and he's at home with his family and friends, he's got to live with the decisions he makes in regards to his career moving forward, because boxing was that in the grand scheme of things with someone's life.
Yeah, no, that's right. Just before I do let you go, Johnny, I did want to touch on, obviously, for yourself, worked with Sky for many years. Looks like the deal with Boxer is coming to an end. I guess for yourself, Johnny, from your point of view, where do you think the future lies with Sky within the sport of boxing? If you can say anything, I guess.
Well, I've been around Sky for a long time. I'm probably one of the oldest ones on the squad now. And I've seen them all come and go. Satanta, Box Nation, whatever. They've all come and gone and said they're going to take over and Sky are done and where they're going to go. Sky has stayed consistent. They made the right decisions and been consistent. And I believe Sky is still the biggest powerhouse in boxing if they want to be. Do you understand? If they want to
Yeah.
be. So right now, moving forward, because if this is the case and the deal with Boxer is done, people are thinking, well, that's Sky done. Not really, because Sky's
Mm.
worked with every promoter going. And so what makes you think they can't do it with somebody else? What makes you think they can't re-establish themselves elsewhere? Because they've done it time and time and time and time again. They've been consistent in what they've done. So just because you don't know, don't mean not that. We just don't know. So the news, I probably know a little bit more than you do,
Yeah.
but I don't worry about tomorrow with Sky Boxing because Sky Sports is that exactly that Sky Sports. Every sport is going. And there's an appetite there. And as long as the appetite's there, Sky still have the ability to be the biggest powerhouse in the sport of boxing. That's their choice, not boxing's choice.
That goes on to sort of what I was going to say. When you do see, look, you see Eddie and Frank both on the zone, etc., which is they do great for boxing in their respect. But you might obviously people must recognise that, and I'm sure you feel like Sky is crucial to the continuous growth of sport in the UK, boxing in the UK. Sorry.
Well, while you look at Sky in regards to all the other platforms that are showing boxing just in the UK, stuff it, let's go Europe. Yeah. You go in any bar in
Yeah.
Spain, Sky's on in the background.
Mm.
It's either football, tennis, boxing, or whatever. You go in most bars here in the UK, most Sky's on in the background. Sky has been in this job for it must be 40, 50 years. You can't get that's the one thing you can't buy, borrow, pretend to have the experience. So Sky have put themselves in that position through time and effort and experience. So the zone, whoever that are coming through, they potentially could be there, but they've got to pay the dues. So it's going to take 10, 20, 30, 40 years for them to be
Yeah.
in the position Sky's at now. You can't buy that time. You've got to do the time. Sky's done the time, which is why they're everywhere, which is why they are, if they want to be, as long as they want to be, the biggest powerhouse in boxing.
Yeah. When Eddie Hearn got asked about on IFL about Boxer departing Sky, he described it and he said, "Look, the what Matchroom and Sky created over that period of time would have been impossible shoes to fill for Shalom." What did you make of those comments from Hearn about
Uh, I don't disagree with him because again, and listen, I don't work for Matchroom or anybody. I rate Eddie. I rate Eddie massively. I think he's one of, if not the best promoter in the world. But this is business. So Eddie being the best promoter in the world at the time, with the biggest platform, Sky at the time, of course, it's a romance made in heaven.
that?
You know, why would they? It can only do anything but succeed. But then, has Eddie had the same success away from Sky? I don't think so. But Sky can, and before Eddie at Sky, there was Frank. Before Frank, you can go on and on. Eddie's dad was there. So Sky, the common denominator is Sky. But the union with Sky and Eddie worked brilliantly. But there are other promoters out there. There are other people out there. They're probably not Eddie, apart from his dad. They're probably not Eddie. But time tells its own story. I think Eddie is speaking from experience because he remember being the newborn on the block. I think his first outing with us was with Audley Harrison, and he got the stick, he got the flack, he got everything that Ben's getting now. But he stuck it out. He made the right decisions. He and then AJ came along, and again, look what AJ's done for British boxing. Regardless of what you say about him now, so AJ, Eddie, and Sky together, why would that not be so successful? But you've got to ask yourself this question: will there be another AJ? Yes, there will. We didn't think there would be another Naz. We didn't think there'd be another Nigel Benn. We didn't think there'd be. They'll come and go. They will come and go. And so, and no matter what any of these promoters tell you, the golden goose is Sky. That's a golden goose. Once you've got that platform, you think, wow, I've got a chance here. You can all try and create and pretend I've got something that looks like it, but it's like going to Fake Street in Manchester. You ain't gonna get the real deal, man. And
Do
that's
you,
how it is, and they know that.
but do you think, I guess when it comes to the future, the concern is obviously with Boxer leaving and you've got, Eddie with the zone, Frank with the zone. There's no, and you look at the UK market in itself, there's no real other shoe in that could go into that could fit into like the Sky deal. Do you see what I mean
You know
there?
what? If I'm honest with you, when Ben came on the scene, I thought, where's he come from? I knew
Mm,
about him, but and then Eddie came on the scene. It's giving the opportunity to somebody that potentially could make the most of it. Eddie was given the opportunity, even though he had experience from his own man. And so he took full advantage of that opportunity. Frank was given the opportunity, he took full advantage of that opportunity. Before that, we had three or four promoters that had to operate against each other to take full advantage, dogs chasing the chickens, to take full advantage of that opportunity. So it's down to the promoter to take full advantage of that opportunity. Unfortunately, I think it's like the promoters turn into like Frankenstein. And once they're there, they think, yes, they got how they got them in the first place and the promises they made once they were there. They forget that. And that's why they fall off the cliff a little bit.
which interesting times for the future and interesting times in UK boxing. But yeah, Johnny, always a pleasure to be catching up with you. Always do appreciate you taking time to speak to me. Yeah, always good to have you on. I'm sure it won't be too long since we're catching up sometime soon. Appreciate it, mate.
Anytime. You will. Thank you.
So, man, thank you.